Content warning. This video is about a sensitive topic involving violence and loss of life. We've removed any graphic or descriptive content to comply with YouTube's guidelines. The aim of this video is to provide informative, factual journalism on tragic events in the public interest that does not dismiss its seriousness. All clips shown are under the doctrine of fair use for news reporting and analysis, and some points made in this video are simply opinions and theories. I'm not responsible for third-party information, and this video is being made purely for artistic, educational, documentary, and scientific purposes. So since the arrest of cartel leader El Mencho, a lot of people have been talking about what's going on with his cartel, the CJNG, that basically have been turning Mexico completely upside down. And that's prompted me to take a little bit of a closer look at this organization. And let me tell you people, these are some scary dudes. I'm hearing reports that this militarized cartel is so deadly. Murder is nothing to these guys. I'm hearing that they literally hunt down the police, and even more chilling, there are rumors that they actually engage in acts of cannibalism. They actually eat people. They actually eat their ops. I'm not joking. This isn't a joke. So I'm going to break it all down to you in this video. I've got some very, very interesting clips that I want to show you. And yeah, like you're going to find out that this group, this is where very, very scary. Okay, so this is obviously El Mencho. This is a video about him and his crew. This is Mexico's most wanted drug kingpin from 3 years ago. Okay, and basically they would explain the history of the Jalisco New Generation, or the CJNG cartel, and basically explain how they started out as humble avocado farmers before turning into a massive, hyper-violent, militarized force that were basically dominating the drug trade in Mexico.
Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, or El Mencho, comes onto the scene. El Mencho had been working in the narco trade since he was a teenager, crossing back and forth between Mexico and the US. He married into the Valencia family, creating an alliance that would eventually grow into what became the Jalisco New Generation cartel.
The economical power behind the Cartel Jalisco, they literally started with avocados, so they were farmers. They literally started moving from avocados to chemical precursors to make drugs like methamphetamine. It's like, okay, so what the US market like? They like their avocados from Mexico and their meth from Mexico.
Since they formed, the CJNG's calling card has very simply been to make themselves the most brutal and violent cartel around. They dress in army-style uniforms and make a great show of using heavy military-grade weaponry.
And in July, footage emerged of that CJNG convoy. These gunmen call themselves the Elite Group and pledge allegiance to El Mencho. They're armed with assault rifles with grenade launchers attached to the barrel, heavy machine guns, and also this gun. This is a 50 caliber sniper rifle. It's a powerful weapon that the CJNG loves to show off.
Where organizations like the
So they've got serious firepower, serious artillery. They're moving with the strength of a military force of their own, and the Mexican authorities are actually scared of them, and I understand why. But interestingly, okay, after the arrest of the Sinaloa cartel boss El Chapo, the CJNG basically stepped up quickly and they seized a lot of power using forces trained by Mexican and American special forces. And I touched on this in a previous video I did about this today, but let's refresh ourselves. They're literally recruiting the most efficient and trained top military killers from all over the world to run the cartel business. What the hell is going on?
Another power vacuum emerged as the Sinaloa cartel lost its grip on the Millennial cartel, and various factions were born. One splinter group, helmed by Nemesio Oseguera, aka El Mencho, decided to gain control of Millennial's remaining smuggling networks, resulting in a major turf war in the Gulf of Mexico against Los Zetas. El Mencho and his new cartel, who he dubbed Mata Zetas, claimed to be against the extortion, kidnapping, thievery, and unnecessary violent undertakings dealt by cartels in the Gulf. Their goal was to take over the market in an effort to enact peace in Mexico through less violent business practices. And they swiftly kicked off their mission in Cancun after authorities recovered a manifesto from the crime scene of 3 dead Los Zetas sicarios, which declared the Mata Zetas were the new kid on the block and ready to take over the fight for a cleaner Mexico. And because of this mission statement, Mexican Army Special Forces members believed in the mission statement and joined in on the fight, deserting their posts to use violence against the violent. And many of the operators were formerly trained in Fort Bragg by the United States Army to help them combat anti-capitalist and neo-colonialist militias who broke out in the region after NAFTA took effect. They'd lose the name Matazepes, and take the name Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or the Spanish acronym, CJNG. They grew heavily militarized and tactically efficient, even adapting special operations units within their own cartel. And these individual units specialized in all types of warfare, from direct action to reconnaissance to drone operations, including kamikaze drones. Their special ops units and hitman training program even mimic the selection process and pipelines of the world's most elite units. And according to one CJNG Sicario and one inside source, the CJNG contracted various U.S. Special Operations members to train their newest recruits. And these operators spanned across 3 branches, which allegedly included the Marine Corps, the Navy, and the Army's Tier 1 unit, Delta Force, who allegedly consulted CJNG. And as their numbers, influence, and power in the region continue to skyrocket, the CJNG quickly lost their so-called moral ethos and broke bad, becoming the very thing they set out to destroy. And they would soon become the most barbaric criminal organization the world has ever seen, after declaring war on every single Mexican cartel and committing massacre after massacre in the Gulf of Mexico.
They basically said, we are EBK, we're everybody killer, we're not f***ing with anybody, we're going to go to war with the cops, CPDK, EBK, everything. Mexican, they want to kill everyone. And what really set them apart was just how ruthless they were. They were openly taking the fight straight to the local police. They weren't scared about killing police, military, literally anyone that got in their way. It was all on the table.
Jalisco is the home of world-famous mariachi music, the birthplace of tequila, and now Mexico's western state of Jalisco is a hotspot for drug-related violence. Much of it perpetrated by an armed group called the New Generation Jalisco Cartel. They posted this video allegedly showing them capturing a group of kidnappers. The New Generation Cartel's April 6th attack was a military-style ambush that killed 15 Jalisco State Police. Security experts say they used anti-tank rifles and grenades against the unsuspecting police convoys.
So the police convoys aren't expecting to encounter anti-tank weaponry, militarized firepower. It's insane. It beggars belief. Nothing has ever been seen like this before. They took things to a level that no one even thought possible. And they would frequently openly engage in heavily armed warfare with also the Mexican military as well as the police forces. Insane.
Mexico's government claims the New Generation Cartel of
This is
Jalisco
10 years ago, by the way.
used rocket-propelled grenades last Friday to bring down this army helicopter, killing 6 soldiers.
We heard a boom, like a bomb. They took down the aircraft. They took it down.
Mexico's Interior Minister says the shoot-down comes as the Mexican government launches an offensive against the drug trafficking organization. In a news conference this week, the Interior Minister tried to calm citizens, choosing to aim his message directly at the cartel leadership.
There is no criminal group capable of beating the determination of citizens and their government to build a society free of violence.
The New Generation Cartel blocked roads on May 1st with burning vehicles in at least 32 municipalities in Jalisco State and the states of Colima, Guanajuato, and Michoacán. A security analyst says this is the first time a drug trafficking organization has used rocket-propelled grenades against a Mexican military aircraft.
It's crazy, right? They're terrified of them. And to make things even worse, okay, to add to their terrifying reputation where they will literally shoot down police and military helicopters, causing the government and the authorities to quite literally shake in their boots. This cartel is notoriously known for enforcing, allegedly, cannibalism within their training camps. They're eating people. Here we go. It says, inside cannibal cartel camps where recruits eat victims in front of gang leaders. This is a real thing. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, teaches its members how to cut off their rivals' fingers and toes, and new recruits are expected to prove their loyalty in twisted rituals. This is making the Epstein files look like Toy Story 2. Okay, this is insane. It says, a savage drug cartel is forcing new recruits to feast on human flesh and carry out in its infamous terror schools. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel has expanded rapidly across Mexico in recent years, operating mainly in the west of the country. Its members routinely carry out brutal attacks of violence to intimidate their rivals. The cartel has downed an army helicopter with RPGs, killed hundreds of state officials, and has hanged bodies of victims from bridges to intimidate rivals. CJNG recruits learn such brutality at its training camps, typically set up at secret locations in rural regions, where they learn combat tactics and how to use small arms. It's terrifying. Over 3 to 4 months, its members have also become cannibals. One anonymous recruit told the Daily Beast, "I've been there and there was a lot of cannibalism. They recruit them, then they start working on them. First, CJNG members are taught how to cut off their victims' one of the cartel's preferred torture methods. Look how terrifying they are. This reminds me of that other group of guys that definitely shouldn't be named from the Middle East." The source went on, "They're given a choice of one of those pieces to eat in front of the boss. You have to do it without reacting or vomiting or you are beaten. If you didn't want to eat human flesh, they wouldn't let you leave. They had you there." Right? If you don't want to eat, you will be eaten. Once the members prove their loyalty, they start learning how to entire bodies. Another man, identified only by the alias Francisco, claims he was tricked into joining a CJNG training camp in the mountains of Guadalajara, a state in the west of the country, after being offered a job as a security guard. This is not the kind of security that I'm trying to hire. This is crazy. It says, while their gang members executed one man for failing to put together a gun, Francisco was then forced to cut off his hand. For failing to put together a gun, they killed him. He was forced to cut off his hand and eat a part of the... "I had to do it. You have no choice. I remember the fear and the blood." What the hell? Another training camp survivor said the most timid recruits in his class were instructed to take a rival and crush his head with a stone. When another vomited up part of the body, the twisted instructor picked it out the dirt and forced him to eat it again. I feel like I want to vomit. That's actually... Last year, horrifying footage emerged of CJNG members pulling out the hearts of rival members and biting into them. I think I remember seeing that when that went viral. That's insane. Mocking their dead enemies, along with desensitizing new recruits, the cartel has also used these brutal tactics to spread fear among local populations and strengthen its grip on the drug trade. During the pandemic, 3 people, including a pregnant woman, were left in a critical condition with their hands missing after the CJNG accused them of theft. Their mutilated bodies were found bloodied in the back of a truck in Guanajuato. A message attached to one of the men read, "This happened to me for being a thief and because I didn't respect hardworking people and continued to rob them." Look at that military vehicle. It's so big. Pause. "Anyone who does the same will suffer." To cover its tracks, the cartel also resorts to dissolving its victims in acid baths. In 2018, Christian Palma Gutierrez, a Mexican rapper, confessed to disposing of bodies of 3 missing film students by dissolving them in acid. He was paid 3,000 pesos, $160 a week, that's it, by the CJNG, who mistook the students for members of a rival gang before kidnapping and torturing them. The depths of the world's depravity is so much deeper than I could have possibly imagined. The last few weeks have actually been an eye-opener for me, and I feel so upset. So after a famous Mexican TV anchor angered the CJNG leader El Mencho, he would threaten her life. So nobody is above it, and I just want to make this very clear. I'm not trying to disrespect El Mencho. Seems like a great guy, very impressive. The heights that he was able to get to in his career, and you know, I'm just great, like...
After famous Mexican
Look
TV
what happens.
reporter Azucena Uresti spoke in favor of Michoacan self-militia groups defending their towns from brutal Jalisco new generation cartel takeovers, she got the attention of CJNG's leader, El Mencho, who became enraged and filmed a personal death threat video for Azucena, posting it online and quickly going viral in Mexico.
No estoy en contra de la libertad de expresión, pero sí de quien me tira a mí directamente. A ti, Azucena Uresti, una cosa te hago saber, no seas y bájale de... Porque te aseguro que si no le bajas de y sigues tirándome, te lo aseguro que donde sea que estés, doy contigo y te haré que te comas tus palabras, aunque me acuse de feminicidio.
He said, "I will kill you." He said, "I'm not playing around." All right? He said, "Tone it down." At least she got a warning. At least she got a warning, okay? It is actually crazy. They were mad because she was obviously saying that she was in favor of people starting their own armed militias to fight against the cartels in their villages. Clearly, they are not going to like that. Now, as time went on, CJNG expanded across Mexico and far beyond just the narcotics trade.
Well, that's what they've done. They got into commodities, you know, they get in, now they're into oil, they're in avocados, they're in timeshares, they're in all sorts of things, and they're also into extortion.
Yep.
And so what they do normally is they move into an area. The place I've been looking at a lot has been Guanajuato.
Yep.
And so there was a group called, it was a gang, Santa Rosa gang. And the Santa Rosa gang was punching holes into the Mexican government oil pipeline. Pumping, siphoning the oil, gas that comes through, and then selling it in the black market. Or selling it to gas stations and say, you're going to buy from us, as opposed to selling it. So they're making that money. And so they were doing extortion. So the New Jalisco Cartel came in and said, hey, we like your business model. Why don't you work for us under our brand? They went to the boss, and the boss said, no, we're happy. Okay, so they put a bullet in his head, and then they went to the deputy and said, hey, we're going to give you the same offer. He just saw what happened. He goes, hey, you know what? That sounds like a good offer. We will work for you. And so they got the branding from the Jalisco cartel. They got the protection. They've got weapons. They got resources they need it. And so the business model's changed.
So they're making people offers they can't refuse. All right. Sounded like a great deal to me. So they were still selling avocados. They got the meth, the heroin, the coke, the gas. They got everything that you could need. They damn near got their own 7-Eleven over there. Just anything you need, they got it for the low, and you don't really have a choice. Now, this massive criminal enterprise would eventually cross international borders, and they would establish operational strongholds in various U.S. states like Kentucky, as you will see in this clip.
Another case of modern-day cattle rustling has occurred. This time, a Kentucky cattleman misled investors and a financial lender out of $100 million.
When you say they didn't have time to hide the evidence, who do you assume is they?
We've got some cartel arrests in our area that were red flags for me. You got Roberto Aldurte, who was arrested in our area right whenever this fraud started up in 2018. And his brother Luis was arrested because he got a hold of an informant here in Paducah, Kentucky to buy grenade launchers and rifles. He is a lieutenant to El Mencho. We're talking thousands of dead cows that are stacked up. I mean, it looks like it's so far back. There are cows, so many cows stack up and so far back. You'd think it's a forest. And these two victims, this fraud, were told, if you talk about this, you're going to end up in that stack.
So they're out here threatening people and getting all types of financial things going on, even in Kentucky and other places in America. Now, just last November in 2025, the cartel would actually target and assassinate a local mayor who dared to stand in their way. And I remember this being big news at the time, but I never would have put two and two together and realized that it would connect to this massive, crazy organization that was just wilding out. Okay. You can't even be the mayor.
Now, the mayor, Carlos Manso, took a hard line. We're not going to stand for this, particularly a hard line against the Jalisco New Generation cartel. He was using his own city policing operations to bust some of the Jalisco New Generation cartel people. And he was going on, a lot of interviews saying, we're going to shoot these guys, we're going to stand up to these guys. So this caused him tension with the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, who started saying, no, we can't have extrajudicial killings, we can't have massacres, we can't have a war here. One of the quotes he said was, I might die, but you're going to wake the tiger, which is Mexico. The people of Mexico are angry. On Day of the Dead, on November the 1st, in the evening, he was in the center of Uruapan. So he was in this moment of this celebration, Day of the Dead, what a moment. And an assassin came and shot him dead at point blank range. It was a 17-year-old kid who himself was apparently a meth addict in and out of rehab, who they recruited and sent as cannon fodder.
It's probably harder to get drugs across the border right now, right? And so finding new ways of making money is important. So now you start going toward extortion of your own people. But is this the drug trade individuals that are now just pivoting towards this economic violence, or is it a whole different thing?
So in many cases, it's the same organizations, like the Jalisco New Generation cartel. Now, the Jalisco New Generation cartel is a very, very big, sprawling criminal organization. So it's got some people in the organization dedicated to trafficking drugs, but it's also got the local plazas, as they call them, the local turfs around the country. Important business for them is selling drugs locally. Selling crystal meth is a big deal. Selling weed and selling cocaine. It's generally the three drugs they sell, their drug selling points. And then they'll have their people dedicated to extortion. Really, their big income they're just doing is just shaking people down. And for them, it's kind of like easy money. It's like, why work for a living? Well, just go around with a bunch of AK-47s and AR-15s and say to people, you pay me, you work for a living, and you pay me. No at all.
So there's really no way around it, right? If these guys roll into your town, you basically just got to give it up. It's very, very unfortunate. So no disrespect to them. You can see why the authorities are so upset about this. And you can see why a country like America might say, look, we want to actually use our military to stop what's going on here, because clearly the Mexican government and the Mexican military, are in a position to be pushed around by cartels. And the cartels, they're modeling themselves on the US military. They're training with people from the US military to get the upper hand on the Mexican authorities. But unfortunately, that goes all the way to the top until you actually go to war with the full-blown American military. And I don't think that anybody wants to see the cartels go to war with the American military. I do think that, maybe some kind of changing of the drug laws could actually calm this down. I hope one day that might actually be a case, but then again, it's a bit of a long shot these days. But yeah, it's just really messed up, man. I can't believe these guys are actually eating people, allegedly. What the hell? I thought that was really interesting. I just wanted to let you guys know that. I'll be back tomorrow with a couple of videos. I might take a little break from videos soon been doing a lot of just really dark, sad stuff on this channel, man. And I know you guys are enjoying it, and I know you appreciate my reporting. It's been so refreshing to just have a whole new platform to be able to share stuff with you guys. I feel like some of the content that I was making before maybe wasn't quite what you guys wanted to see, but I do feel like we're really locked in now, and I'm putting my talents to use for the things that you guys want to know about. So I really appreciate you choosing me as your news source. I'll keep you guys updated on anything major that happens in politics, music, culture, crime, war, all around the world. It's crazy. Okay, so thanks so much. That's me for today. I will catch you guys tomorrow with some more content. And for now, I'm out, guys.